Ooh, that wasn't great, was it?
It wasn't. It was really fun to watch you decide for 5 seconds how you were going to introduce the quick take hot take.
We haven't done one for a while.
We haven't.
It's part of it, right? Yeah. Welcome to the quick take hot take. We are recording our reaction to spoiler alert: USA 0, Brazil 2. Mere minutes after the final whistle went. Dave Sarachan is still standing in front of that plastic advertising board.
Waiting to see if anybody wants to talk to him?
Yeah. So we will rewatch the game and do a longer review and get some Jack Handy-style deep thoughts about the game. Have I got the right guy?
Sure.
But this is our immediate reaction. So I gave mine Taylor. Mine was, ooh. What was yours?
Mine would be more like, meh.
No?
That's about it, yeah.
Ooh,
yeah, a little bit.
There's some disinterest in that, Mayor.
A little bit.
Which is worrying because we're supposed to be all excited about the next generation of young American talent.
If you want to go down that route, see, now you've maybe go from meh to annoyed. Because, that felt very tone deaf, in my opinion, because it felt like the package that U.S. Soccer and Fox had prepared for after the U.S. made it out of their group in the World Cup, and then it was supposed to be this and now the next generation, and it's like, yeah, this was the generation that were playing in the friendlies before the World Cup. It's just now you're trying to get neutral fans back into it, so you're reintroducing them.
I think this is an attempt to rebrand the U.S. national team, right?
Yeah.
It's more like, this isn't the team that let you all down last October and didn't go to the World Cup. This is Tim Weah, this is Weston McKennie, this is Tyler Adams, this is the new team. Get excited about them. But then that game was not really fun to watch,
That's
right?
the problem, and I think I'm stealing a page from you here. So this is Daryl's idea. Yeah. That's my phone that's
quick
going
take, hot take. We don't even turn our phones
There we go.
You're currently being ratioed. We'll talk about that in a second.
Oh, yeah.
Leanne says.
Yeah, well, we can talk about the penalty when we talk about the penalty. I'll say this, though, which is a thing you and I talked about, is I understand why you want to do that rebrand and get people excited and get them focused on these young players. But there is an argument to be made that if you do that too much and too fast in these situations where you have an interim manager, you have a GM saying they don't really know who they're looking for right now, even though everybody knows they do.
Yeah. We saw Ernie Shute in the stands, right?
Yeah. He did a pre-match interview where
he did?
It wasn't great. It wasn't a great look for him.
Okay.
But
at least he helped fill out the crowd.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think he counted as 200 more, according to the official attendance. All I'm saying is, if you're going to do that and try to get people back into it with young players and exciting players, and then you go out and don't look that exciting, admittedly against Brazil, there is an argument to be made that you can sour people on 18-year-olds very quickly.
I don't think we're there yet.
No, definitely not.
I don't think we're there yet, but there's the Mexico game to come on Tuesday.
Yeah. And again, it's not their fault. It's not the players' fault. I'm not saying they underperformed and so we should all be down on them. It's just more so if you put people under too much pressure too early, it's not a great look because they get remembered as, oh yeah, he was really bad in that one game. And that's really kind of what sticks out for the next couple games.
So this is maybe going too far too fast, but so for example, Anthony Robinson will get some fingers pointing at him 100%. For, I would say, overcommitting on Douglas Costa for the first goal. Costa gets by him easily, crosses for Roberto Firmino.
I believe Megs him too in that sequence.
Ooh. But there's a danger that we all start thinking, oh, Robinson's not the answer at left back, let's move on to someone else. I think it's important that we sort of realise where we're at, that our best left back is Wigan's left back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Whereas Brazil can choose from a Chelsea right winger and a Juve right winger, right? And that's just on the one side.
I mean,
and I think we have to accept our position, accept that we have a young Wigan left back who hopefully one day plays for Everton.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we are when we go up against Brazil.
Yeah, I mean, and same thing with Timothy Weah. We talked about this. By the way, I should add, Douglas Costa megged Anthony Robinson 20 minutes after he beat him for the goal. So my mistake there. But I would say Timothy Weah is a substitute squad player, we hope, for PSG right now. Maybe in the future he's a starter.
Yeah.
But he's going up against Neymar, the person who is starting for PSG and is their main central figure. Like,
Silva
that's the
and
difference.
Marquinhos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, them too.
Right.
They're pretty good.
My memory, the game just finished.
Yep.
I don't remember many great moments from Tim Weah. He got the tackle on Marquinhos, right, when Marquinhos had the loose touch. But beyond that, I didn't see much of an impact from Tim Weah. But again, maybe we shouldn't expect much of an impact from young Tim Weah playing against basically the first-choice Brazil team.
I think if you're the U.S. set up the way they were in that 4-1-4-1, and you make the changes they made to bring in two theoretically more attacking, midfielder minded players, but then you don't really change that much else, you can't really expect Timothy Weah to kind of break the game open.
Yes.
Instead, he's going to do what he does, which is he made good runs. He made the kind of peeling off runs to try to get him behind. I don't think they ever really worked that well, but you can't expect him to just come in and make these runs and suddenly everything is opened up. You can expect him to work really hard, which I think he did, but it requires a lot more shifting and changing and tactical adjustment.
Can we talk about tactical adjustment? Because people will have heard our preview where I'll take the blame for it because I argued hard for I think the US is going 5 at the back like we did against France in June to get that 1-1 draw.
Yep.
I think we're going to see a 5-3-2. And I also think it's what the US should have done given who our personnel is and who we're going up against. It's our best chance at frustrating them. I would say, obviously I was wrong. We went out in the 4-1-4-1. I think we would have done better in that back 5.
I think given that the 4-1-4-1 we kind of expected to be more defensive and not particularly attacking, if you're going to do that, then I think I'm with you. It made more sense. I mean, you talked me into it. Like let me rephrase that because I don't want to put it all on you. Like
I'll take it.
You made a convincing argument that I agreed with. That if you're going to be defensive, which we thought they were because it's Brazil, it makes more sense to have more bodies behind the ball. I would make the argument that first goal and the second goal come about because we don't have enough bodies back and people don't know their assignments enough to know who needs to track and who needs to fill space and who needs to be putting pressure on.
Yep.
So we just gave Brazil too much time across the board, and that's what happens. You go 2-0 down at the end of the first half.
Can I give my brief tactical version of what happened on the first goal? I think we may revisit it. We may rethink about it when we do the longer take later tonight. But the back 4 that I saw, that wasn't the back 5 that I maybe wanted, was very narrow, meaning right back and left back were close to the 2 centre-backs, which is theoretically sound, right? Because then you're protecting the middle. But when Brazil sprayed it out wide to Douglas Costa, it meant that Anthony Robinson had to cover a lot of ground to get away from the middle-ish, centre-leftish area where he was to get out to his man. And in doing so, that's where he made the mistake of overcommitting and going directly to him too fast. That's what opened up the opportunity for Douglas Costa to, just make that move and go past him.
Yep.
My basic theory is that if you have a back 5, you can still stay kind of narrow, but you've got a whole extra person's worth of space that you're covering in a narrow back 5. Right? So you're not then sprinting from side to side trying to cover. And a team like Brazil, when you're sprinting from side to side trying to close people down and trying to be narrow, you're going to get pulled out of shape. You're going to end up with lots of one-on-ones. You're going to have people end up getting beat by Douglas Costa, by Fabinho, by all those Brazilian players.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. You can still certainly be better at dealing with it in a back 4. I mean, there was the exact same situation that led to the first Brazil goal when DeAndre Yedlin tried to charge down the sideline and Felipe Luis basically made the smart defensive play, didn't pursue him, pursued the space, cut it out, kept the ball, Brazil retained possession. So you can do that. Can
we stop on that and highlight that for a second? Because people may not be picturing this. This is the one where Yedlin tried to play the ball down the outside of Luis and then run around the inside, right? But even when they first get to the ball, Luis doesn't just run directly at him like Robinson ran at Douglas Costa. He run at this nice angle that cuts down space, doesn't yet let Yedlin progress, and doesn't give Yedlin space to accelerate into. That's what an experienced defender who's played many years for Brazil and Atletico Madrid does. Anthony Robinson, you can't quite expect the same.
I would addend it to add that he makes the direct run at Yedlin to put Yedlin under pressure, and he makes him feel like, oh, he's coming right at me. I'll take this big, heavy touch. But as Yedlin takes that heavy touch, Luis is already breaking off the direct run to cover the space. So he basically anticipates exactly what Yedlin's going to do. But that's a great play, but all I mean to say with that is that you can still do it in a back 4 if you have your positioning right, and more importantly, if you've isolated things to the extent that that's the only option is for that player to try to make that run. For the Brazil goal, it was Douglas Costa.
One we're talking about?
It was Douglas Costa drifting wide to the touchline, and it was basically the U.S. still playing a relatively high line, but then also keeping their attack back. It felt like they were waiting for Brazil to cross midfield before they put pressure on, but because of that, they let the center backs have the ball. Those center backs are more than capable of pinging a 60-yard ball out wide, and that's exactly what happens. Is basically it's either the left center back or the left back gets the ball, Felipe Luis or Thiago Silva gets the ball, turns and basically just pings that ball over the top, and nobody puts him under pressure, so he has time to get the ball, turn, see Douglas Costa out wide, spray that ball, and Douglas Costa still has time to bring it down and then go.
Should we talk about the second goal?
Sure.
This is the penalty that Will Trapp gave away by the referee says fouling Fabinho. This is the tweet I was talking about. You possibly got ratioed, which means that there were more replies than there are likes or retweets because people are replying angrily. It seems that US fans do not agree that Will Trapp fouled Fabinho. Right. So I guess before we've rewatched it once, at half time, right? We're going to probably I imagine we're going to do it again when we rewatch later. What's your argument for the fact that this was a correctly given penalty kick?
Well, what's your argument for this?
Honestly,
I'd be curious to hear what you think.
I still don't know, but I think maybe Fabinho does a thing where he leaves his leg behind and deliberately makes contact with Trapp, which in my opinion then would not be, most refs would not give that penalty, right? So that's, I think, mine, but I'm not really confident in standing behind it till I've rewatched it a million times on freeze frame.
Yeah. I mean, even then, when you rewatch it like super slow-mo, you can kind of make it look like whatever you want because it's like, oh, well, he engaged this contact here, and then you rewatch it live, and you're like, oh, maybe not. So with that said, in my opinion, it looked like Fabinho split the two defenders. John
Brooks and Trapp, right?
Brooks was off balance and kind of then tried to do the defender thing that you do if they play the ball behind you is like you stand up, and then if they run into you, you're sort of like, no, he made contact with me.
Yeah.
So I think Fabinho is moving across him to try to avoid that contact. Trapp is behind Fabinho. Fabinho's trailing foot gets hit. I would argue that given that Fabinho hasn't been playing for Liverpool, is trying to make an impact with this Brazil team, I would venture to guess that he is trying to get to that ball, especially because it's not like he hits it out of bounds or it goes out of bounds or Zach Steffen is there to collect it.
Oh, you're saying he's in on goal?
Like he's in on goal and then he goes down. And in my opinion, if you watch the replay, it looks like he's trying to run through it and can't because he gets that trailing leg hit when he's at full speed.
So you say, I remember you saying to me here in studio that basically Trapp's right foot catches Fabinho's left foot.
Like right leg.
Not midair, but like on the floor, basically. Yeah.
I would. That's what I saw. I mean, I may be wrong. Maybe Fabinho goes down easily. Maybe he is leaving that foot out. But there is contact there. And in my opinion, it goes back to don't make the referee make that decision.
Yeah.
Don't get split and then have to make that trailing run where that is what the attacker wants. The attacker, there's a reason why the forward, if they're on a breakaway, will dribble in such a way that they cut off the defender, and now the defender either has to clip the leg and get a red card or do nothing. And it felt like it was that same sort of sequence for Will Trapp, where he was basically running behind and didn't know what to do.
All right, so whether or not it was a correctly given penalty, game of opinions in it and all that, maybe we should just talk about what happens in the build-up to that to that penalty, because weirdly, that to me is the more interesting thing about this is, again, we'll rewatch it more times, but what I saw is Brazil with a lot of clever movement and overloading certain spaces, and the US in that 4-1-4-1 that is all about, it's not about sitting back and letting them come at you, right? It's about going with your men, putting people under pressure, chasing people around.
Maybe. I'm not sure I agree with that, actually, but I'll let you finish. But I just want to get that in there. I'm not sure I agree with that characterization of what they were doing.
Oh, okay, interesting. Okay, let's talk about that for a second then. I would argue the US in that 4-1-4-1 definitely to start the game sent a lot of people just beyond the halfway line to put pressure on Brazil, right? And then when Brazil broke through that line, the US would drop a little, but they wouldn't just like sit in a shape and stand there and dare you to come at them, right? They would be chasing people around. That's what I saw.
I mean, see, that's the disagreement we might have. And maybe it's just about this sequence.
Rewatching will help, I think.
Sure. But like in this sequence, like Tyler Adams is moving to mark space, and he doesn't notice that Fred has just run by him to the touchline, and that's why Fred is wide open, because Tyler Adams, I felt like, was charged with block that passing lane so they can't just bypass the midfield and play it centrally. So Tyler Adams leaves his mark to go stand and like cut off an angle.
Blocking passing lanes instead of sort of chasing individual players around.
That's what it felt like. It felt like we can't deal with their movement. Like, and I'm not saying that like critically. I'm saying that's just a fact. Very few teams can deal with the movement and technical ability of Brazil.
Yep.
So it felt like more it was don't just go chasing people, don't bite on fake runs or anything like that. Hold your ground, stay in your rough area. Don't let them pass through you. Don't make it easy for them, but don't get caught focused on Neymar and running with Neymar, and suddenly he creates space for somebody else.
We'll figure this out on the rewatch. We'll agree to disagree on whether, say, Adams or anyone else was blocking passer lanes or chasing men. It may be a little from column A, a little from column B, right? But essentially, my argument is that Brazil interchanged positions and moved people around. Like Fred is a central midfielder, but he would drift to essentially the right wing, right? Fabinho is a right back, but he ends up dribbling in an interior, inside right forward type position. And as those players were moving around in the build-up to this penalty kick, the US players sort of got lost when they were switching positions, right? So Julian Green and Tyler Adams and Anthony Robinson are all trying to cover their left wing, Brazil's right wing, trying to get that space locked down between them, and fail because Brazil just moved too cleverly and too quickly for everybody to lock everything down.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say, maybe this is too harsh, but I would say we had talked about if this was a good performance from the USA, that Dave Sarachan might be like, see what I did here? This might be an example of what Dave Sarachan can't do. Because Stu Holden, this is one I wasn't sure of when we watched live. When we rewatch, we'll have to get a better idea. But he very quickly, in the 9th minute, he was already criticizing Anthony Robinson. I don't remember that much negative performance from him at that point, but it was a lot about how Anthony Robinson wasn't tracking and was leaving too much space.
Yeah.
And I wonder if maybe that was because he had come narrow. But all that is to say that then Chi-Chi, like they saw it on TV. Chi-Chi called people over and started telling people, overload that side, overload the U.S.'s left side.
Go after Anthony Robinson.
And if they could hear it, the sideline reporter could hear what he said, the commentators knew what was happening, that Dave Sarachan and U.S. Soccer, that coaching staff didn't adjust what they were doing to recognize, oh, Brazil are overloading one side, let's have somebody cheat over and help with the mismatches that are going to be formed. They didn't really do that, and that's why they kept having opportunities down that wing.
All right.
So to me, it felt like Brazil clearly made an adjustment, and the U.S. didn't really respond to that adjustment because I think they were too worried about other stuff going on elsewhere.
My guess, and I think your guess, because you spotted it first, is that the adjustment Brazil made was to get Fred to drift right and just add more yellow shirts to that side. Yeah. Okay. I think I've said everything I feel like saying in the quick take, hot take. We're going to go rewatch it, come back later tonight with a longer show. Is there anything else you want to, get out there before we close this down?
No, I don't think so. Other than, maybe I'm wrong about the penalty. I may well be. But I am never, ever trying to troll anybody because trolling isn't funny to me.
Of trolling,
it's like,
right?
First of all, I think I began that tweet with, I might be wrong, or I could very well be wrong, but this is genuinely what I saw.
I feel like you and I do Twitter wrong in that we just do honest and we try to think about things before we say them, and that's not how everybody else done it. But you know what? I'm not changing.
Yeah,
not changing.
Nor am I, other than to say that I will never, ever deliberately troll somebody unless it's Alexis Guerreros. Him I will troll.
That seems fair. All right, thank you for listening to the Quick Take, Hot Take. We'll have another show for you in, 2 or 3 hours?
Hopefully less than 3 hours. We shall see.